Takara Tomy was so bored. I mean, who wouldn't be if they kept watching tournament matches of opposite spins, stamina combos, equalizing and spinning on and on in the center of the stadium for minutes just to end up in a draw at the end? This becomes so monotonous and boring after a point. And that's why they came up with this. No, not that marketing video in which a bunch of adults pretend to enjoy some intense Beyblade battles, but Beyblade X. I'm not going to waste time explaining Beyblade X to any of you, as I guess you all are most likely already aware of everything Beyblade X. I actually want to talk about what a player can do in a match to turn its outcome in his or her favor. Especially now that there are talks about making Beyblade a sport and all. Well, whether or not that is a serious discussion or just a marketing gimmick is a matter for another video. But leaving that aside, there are basically two things that you can control in a Beyblade match. They are the combo and the launch technique that you use. I guess one could argue things like the type of launcher or stuff like that could also affect the game, but we aren't going to focus on those now. We will surely be discussing combos and their selection probably once we have more variety of parts to choose from for each type. Right now we will be focusing on the launch techniques. And we will be talking about attack types in this video. While it is indeed fun to just let it rip and see what happens, in a tournament setting or when you are in some kind of a competition, you do want to focus on your launch to get favorable results. Everything that happens after you launch your bay is not in your hands, and luck surely does play a part in this game. But you don't want to make that an excuse not to do your part. So, talking about launching an attack type. It may seem like a flat launch is probably the most effective one for an attack type in this Beyblade X system, so it can effectively make use of that extreme dash gimmick by engaging the gears on its bit with the extreme line, and the attacks produced so are quite powerful. There are some issues though. If an opponent using a different type of Beyblade can successfully evade these few predictable successive extreme dashes, then they are most likely to score a point with a spin finish owing to the lack of stamina of your attack type. Now, how to evade the extreme dashes and all will be discussed in the future videos in this series, so hit that subscribe button right now so you don't miss those. But for now, we will look at a few different launches or variations of some launches for your attack types. We will discuss how the bay basically behaves after these launches and also the kind of situations in which you can use these. The first thing to keep in your mind while launching any bay is to keep your eyes on your opponent's launcher. Read its position, orientation, everything while you launch. That is very important. You should be able to adjust your own launcher the way you want above the stadium without looking. It doesn't require the kind of hard, torturous training that you see in the anime or anything like that. Just play Beyblade enough and you should be able to do it. So basically, you should know how you are holding your own launcher and observe how your opponent is holding theirs. We will start with the flat launch itself. How does a flat launched attack type bay behave in the stadium? With Beyblade X, there is also a difference in a bay's behavior based on the side of the stadium you are launching from. The X stadium is not like the old circular ones where it didn't matter as much. But for the flat launch though, there is not much difference in the bay's behavior when you launch from either sides of the stadium. I don't know what that cut up tornado ridge kind of looking circle in the middle is actually called, but I will refer to it as tornado ridge or just ridge in this video. So the bay will basically ride that circular ridge and exit it at the top where it's flat and flush with the outside of the ridge, and then move on to the top left portion and engage the extreme line to perform an extreme dash right away after launch. If the launch is too overpowered, there is a chance you will end up missing your opponent and self-KOing right out through the extreme zone. So control your launch power. Your bay would do successive extreme dashes in case you miss the first one. This is a good launch overall, but may end up missing quite a few times as well. But even if you end up missing all those extreme dashes and concede a point losing on a spin finish, you still have enough chances to make a comeback though. A successful extreme dash could result in a win with either 2 points or 3 points, making it a chance worth taking. Before we move on to the next launch, one thing I want to mention is that I am a right-handed person, and if any of you are left-handed, then you may have to make some obvious adjustments to these launches. The next launch we are going to talk about is a tilt launch, but no, we are not trying to do a flower pattern here. There are different kinds of tilted launches we can do, and right now we will discuss the forward tilted launch. There are two variations of this launch that we will be discussing in this video. For the first one, your launcher should be tilted both forward and slightly turn clockwise as you see in these pictures. This would mean that the bit will make contact with the stadium at such an angle that would let it slide up that ridge and get out from that center circle even if you enter it. And no matter where you launch in the stadium, it will go to the edge and meet the extreme line and try to stick to it for a few moments before regaining balance and then doing the extreme dash. This launch makes your bay avoid the center in the beginning and also delays the extreme dash for a few moments. This is useful against a defensive or stamina type opponent that will initially have some kind of movement in the center circle, and you will basically just avoid the center at this time and also wait for a few moments before the extreme dash so that the opponent's bay settles down at the center and becomes somewhat stationary. Then your attack type's flat bit regains its balance and does the extreme dash. Be mindful though that the delay and the contacts made with the extreme line while the bay is tilted will cost you some stamina. Since that extreme dash happens after a delay, you are not risking a self-K or anything, and so you can go for a more powerful launch than the flat launch. Just make sure that the launcher does not shake or sway too much while you launch. Oh, and I wouldn't recommend using it against other attack types as you would be staying too close to the extreme line. And it's not that effective to launch this way from the left side in my experience. As far as I have seen, the bend region of the extreme line on the top of the stadium makes it kinda hard to get it right. And if you launch it a bit forward of that area, the bay may just bounce back from the extreme line into the center circle. Maybe you guys can come up with a variation of this that actually works from the left side as well. There's also a different variation of this launch which actually is a bit risky but can work out very well in certain situations. This one is simply just launching your bay with only a slight forward tilt into this area that is anywhere from the center to bottom part of the right half of the center circle. This launch prevents your bay from sliding over that ridge line and out of the center circle, and instead the bit just keeps hitting the ridge and the bay stays somewhere in that center to bottom left area of the circle for some time. Now, since you guys are definitely not dumb, you might be asking, won't the opponent's bay make contact with yours in the center if you do this? That is the risk with this launch that I mentioned earlier. There is a very good chance this may happen and both yours and your opponent's bay may get thrown back from the contact, ending in both losing control. But don't forget, you're the attack type user here. You're all about taking risks. There are still situations where you can use it though, especially if your opponent is either using an attack type bit or a taper bit and is launching the bay pretty hard or from a considerable height. In all these cases, the opponent's bay may have some forward moment after hitting the stadium, causing it to move forward and avoid the center circle. Be on the lookout to see if your opponent's launcher is tilted forward or at some considerable height from the stadium, or is kind of pulled back from the launching area. In all these cases, that bay will have some forward momentum after landing. But do try this out yourself and practice a lot before you make that decision on whether or not to use this launch. It is a bit hard to predict if the opponent's bay will move back to the center from the outside. This launch, just like the previous variation of it, does not work that effectively when done from the left side of the stadium. The break in the ridge circle at the top messes it up. Although there are ways to get the bay to stay in that center to bottom right region of the ridge circle, I wouldn't recommend that as you are more likely to get hit if you stay there than the other way around. The next one is also a tilted launch, but this one uses the backward tilt of the launcher. This also will be taking advantage of the forward momentum of the opponent's bay. With this launch, you are making your bay tilt backwards, and once the opponent's bay's forward momentum is all used up, your bay will be in a position to make contact with its ratchet. This works very well to score a burst finish, especially on those taller 80mm ratchet combos. If your opponent is using a low burst resistance bit like needle, high needle or ball, all the better. This actually ends in a burst more often than you would imagine. Even I was kind of surprised by that when I was testing. I didn't think it would work that often. But even if you don't score a burst with the first contact, that still is a very effective attack in the beginning of the match itself. You can either cause the opponent to lose so much stamina or even tilt and lose balance and control with the first attack itself. And even if your bay misses that first attack, you still have enough stamina left and will be immediately going for an extreme dash right after this. I would recommend you use this against passive opponents, especially when you have a lead on the scorecard, so that you can end the match probably with a clean sheet if you get it right. And more often than not, you will get it right. Given the guarantee that you won't be self-KOing with this launch, even if you miss the first contact, as the extreme dash will be a bit delayed compared to the flat launch. You can try practicing some sideways tilts or a slight forward thrust on the launcher while launching from both sides of the stadium to see how you can guide your bay better to the opponent in different situations. That was the issue I was having while testing this one. And finally, we move on to the last launch of this video. This one is a hard flat launch with a forward thrust on the launcher exactly when the bay is released from it. The aim here is to launch flat and hard and to make the bit engage the extreme line on the opposite side of the stadium right away, unleashing a quick and aggressive extreme dash. This kind of launch is very fun but really unpredictable as well. You will have to practice this very much if you are planning to do it in a tournament match. Otherwise, you may just end up losing control and just hoping that you somehow get lucky with it. Or in the worst case scenario, lose 3 points with a self KO. And that's it. That's all the attack type launches I got for you, at least for now. Also keep in mind we only have right spinning base so far in Beyblade X. For any future left spinning ones, the stadium sides from which these launches work and all will be reversed. So yeah, keep that in mind. Do try these out and also any new variations of these that you can come up with. And let me and everyone else know in the comments if you have any luck with that. And yeah, should I have given these launches some cool names like they do in the anime? I don't know, let me know that as well in the comments. What should I name this one in that case?